Book Days! The adventure of the day is inspired by the book Polar Bear, What Do You Hear? By Bill Martin Jr., illustrated by Eric Carle. This book is about a polar bear and a variety of other zoo animals and all the different sounds that they make. It's the sequel to the beloved classic Brown Bear, What Do You See? And it's an adventure the whole family will enjoy. Be sure to find it in your local bookstore or library today. And now, we're off to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where we're going to meet a very special polar bear named Snowflake. Are you excited? I am so excited. Let's go. I am so excited today. Today's adventure has brought us to the Pittsburgh Zoo, and I'm joined here with Jennifer Funk, the marine mammal keeper here at the polar bear exhibit. Oh my word, guys, this is my first time meeting a polar bear, and I'm so excited to share this epic adventure with you featuring Snowflake! Woo! Jennifer, I am so excited to learn about Snowflake, to share with our viewers everything about Snowflake. What is the first thing that we should know about Snowflake?
Snowflake is 28 years old, believe it or not. And that's actually considered pretty old for a polar bear.
Okay.
So, as you can see, she looks pretty spry for her age.
She does.
Right now, she's enjoying some enrichment. She's enjoying some capelin, some lettuce, and some carrots.
Oh, wow. And polar bears generally are carnivores, is that correct?
Correct. So in the wild, polar bears would typically feed on ringed and bearded seals. Here at the Pittsburgh Zoo, we feed a diet of fish, meat, cod liver oil, lard, and also enrichment items like you're seeing. Lettuce, carrots, sometimes we freeze items like fish and produce into ice. And sometimes we'll take objects like one of her toys and we'll freeze it in ice with some fish. And so then she really has to use some of those natural behaviors like pouncing on the ice in order to get the food out. Just like they would in the wild when they are hunting for seals, they would use the ice as their hunting platform. So that allows them to use some of those natural behaviors.
That is amazing. So we've covered diet, right? I think we had to talk about diet first because you look at polar bears and they just look hungry. Can we talk a little bit about Snowflake's skin? And particularly, is it soft if you touch it?
So the skin is actually a black color. You can't really see it. It's hidden under all of that fur. So she has 2 layers of fur, and the outer layer is actually quite coarse. It may look soft, but it really isn't.
Wow. And so polar bears, they're, in super cold weather, how do they stay warm?
That's a great question. So polar bears, like we were talking about, they have 2 layers of fur. In addition to that, they also have a layer of fat or blubber that helps insulate them against the cold.
saw Snowflake go for a swim earlier, which was incredible. And so when they're in the water, when they're in the Arctic environments, I mean, what does it feel like in those days with the blubber?
Well, for them, because they have that thick layer of blubber and also because they have that fur, that is what allows them to be in those cold temperatures and also in the water. But like we spoke about a little bit earlier, their primary hunting ground is going to be on the ice, and that's where they have the upper hand in order to hunt for the seals. So it's not often that they would be hunting in the water. That would be more to get from point A to point B. If they needed to. They would also trek distances on land, but primarily they're going to be using that ice for the hunting. But again, because they have that great adaptation of having that thick layer of blubber and fur is what really keeps them protected from that harsh environment.
And how do they find like their natural food in the wild?
So they instinctually know where they need to hunt.
Wow.
And so they know that because the seals are their primary source of food, that is going to give them the most energy that they can receive because they feast on that blubber from the seal. And so they know that that is something actually that they will learn early on from their moms. So moms will teach their cubs to hunt on the ice and seek out that particular form of prey because that is the most energy efficient food source for them.
And they have an incredible sense of smell, don't they?
They do, yes. Polar bears have been known to find prey from 20 miles away just using their sense of smell.
Whoa. If we could bottle that. So what is a typical temperament of a polar bear?
So just like with humans, each polar bear is an individual with its own temperament. But that being said, polar bears are known for being dangerous.
Right.
So we do work with them very carefully in the zoo environment and in the wild. There are also areas that polar bears will come in contact with people, and so there are precautions in place for those situations so the contact between humans and polar bears can be minimized because it is a dangerous animal and we want to prevent those types of altercations.
Absolutely. What would you say Snowflake's temperament is?
Snowflake is a very curious animal. She really enjoys puzzle feeders, so that is any item that is enclosed, and then we will stick produce or fish in there, and she has to work to get it out through like maybe a few holes that are on the item itself.
Okay.
So she really is very clever about getting it out. One way that she will do that is she will take that item into the water, submerge it, lift it up, and then the water will actually help those pieces of food come back out. So very smart animal, very intelligent. We do a lot of training with our animals here. Most of the training that we do is for husbandry purposes, which means basically behaviors that help us take better care of her. So anything like being able to look her over, like her paw pads or looking in her mouth, seeing her tongue, even going as far as training her for voluntary vaccination or a voluntary blood draw. These are all important things to help us take really good care of her. And she's very excited about her training, so it makes it a little bit easier.
She seems like such an amazing bear.
She really is. Yeah.
So how cold of environment can polar bears live in?
So in the Arctic, where polar bears are found, it can get down to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that gives you an idea of how well insulated they are and how well prepared they are for those kinds of environments.
And one of the questions I have is, so we know that it can live in the cold, right? But there's two different cold areas on Earth. There's the Arctic up north, and there's Antarctica down south. Can you find polar bears in either place?
No, you can't. So that's a common misconception. Polar bears are found in the Arctic.
Okay.
So the areas that you're going to find polar bears are Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. And in those 5 areas, scientists believe there to be 19 subpopulations. So a subpopulation is basically a population of polar bears that has its home range, but it overlaps with another population.
Okay.
And so they study all of those populations together so they can see if there's a decline or if there's an increase in any of that population. That being said, about 60% of those animals are in Canada.
Wow! So Canada is the place to see a polar bear. Note to self. So how many, when they have their cubs, how many cubs do they have at a time?
So anywhere from 1 to 3.
Okay.
Now 2 is the most common. However, with some of the things that polar bears are facing in the wild, primarily climate change is one of the major concerns for polar bears. What we're seeing and what scientists have found is that because the food source is becoming more scarce, because the sea ice is forming later on in the year, polar bears are not able to hunt the way that they were in previous years. And so what they're finding is that moms are becoming pregnant but are sometimes malnourished. And so sometimes that means less cubs, sometimes that means no cubs.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is, yes, it's possible for 1 to 3, but what they're seeing more and more is that 1 is becoming more of the norm versus how it used to be where 2 was more common.
That's super interesting. What is your favorite part of taking care of Snowflake?
That's a great question. I don't know if I can narrow it down to just one thing. I just, my heart is with polar bears, and I love coming into work and seeing all the animals. But really, it just lights up my day just to be able to spend time with her and just to have those face-to-face interactions and work on, you know, not even necessarily training a new behavior, but just being in that space with her and understanding her behavior, learning her behavior, seeing what all of the little differences are that she has, and just the subtleties that may present itself of changes in behavior. And I enjoy every part of it.
Oh my word, I can totally tell. I mean, just being around Snowflake today, I mean, she just melts your heart.
She does.
I mean, in every way. This is so epic. I mean, I've never seen a polar bear in my life, so this is just an incredible experience. I'm so excited to get to share that with you today. So Jennifer, we talked about Snowflake and how, or polar bears in general, stay warm in the cold weather. But how do they cool off in the summertime?
That's a great question. We get that question a lot. And it's something called thermal regulation. So basically that means Snowflake and polar bears in general have the ability to release heat through any part of their body that's not covered in fur. So their nose, the paws on their paw pads, their ears, anything that you see on her body where there is no fur covering it, she can release heat. What you may also see if you've seen polar bear documentaries, or if you come to the zoo and you've seen our polar bears here, you may see them splaying out with all their legs out.
How cute.
That's another way to release heat. In addition to that, we have a temperature controlled pool. So this pool stays about 55 degrees all year round. And then in addition to that, we also have an air-conditioned back area. So Snowflake has access to the exhibit in the back area 24/7 unless we're cleaning. She has the opportunity to either be on exhibit or in the back. So what we see often in the summertime is that she's choosing to be in the back because it's air-conditioned.
Yes, I would be too. And so is her appetite always this hearty?
So no, that's also a great question. What we see with Snowflake is that her appetite starts to ramp up as we approach the spring, which we also see in the wild because this is when polar bears would head to the sea ice and start feasting on seals. So it's interesting that happens around the same time for Snowflake. And in the fall is when we start to see a pretty strong decrease in her appetite. And what you would see in the wild in the fall is if moms who happen to be pregnant would start denning up. And that probably around November-ish, maybe even October. Typically moms will give birth in December, and then they'll stay in the dens with their cubs, usually around March until March or April. So cubs are going to be 3 to 4 months old when they emerge with their moms, and the moms will take them directly to the sea ice to start hunting. Or learning how to hunt, rather, I guess.
That is incredible. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today, being here at the polar bear exhibit here at the Pittsburgh Zoo has just been an incredible highlight for me. I want to say my day, but I mean, I think it's like my whole year. So I highly recommend you coming to the Pittsburgh Zoo to see Snowflake, this amazing polar bear. Thank you so much for all your expertise. This has just been incredible.
Wonderful. I'm happy to help.
And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming adventures. And we'll see you soon. Bye! Want more book days? Well, the adventure has only begun. Check out these episodes and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming adventures.